I do a typical stock modify before and after video. MS201T. I have 4 of them here. Waiting for a couple of them to pile up to go through all of them. This particular one is an older one. It has the old ignition on it. It does not have the performance upgrade kit that Stihl come out with. Make a couple cuts with her. The owner said this one's got about 15 tanks through it and it's painful to run, so it ended up here. See how she does. For whatever reason, it appears that the throttle hung up a little bit on that one. Do a little bit of tear down. First things first, we're going to advance the timing on it a little bit. They're lackadaisical off idle, so we're going to give it a little bit more advance. Flywheel nut off, break your flywheel free. You can do that however you want. You can use the factory tool. I use an knocker tool. It's a factory tool as well. Just tap on that while holding up on the flywheel. The flywheel will pop off. What you want to do is you'll see a key molded into the flywheel. To advance the timing, you will have to roll the flywheel counterclockwise so that the magnets in the stroke, the magnets reach the ignition at an earlier point than they did previously. Now, in order to simplify this, as you rotate it, you'll see what side of the key you've got to cut out. It will be the leading edge of the key. So as you rotate it forward, you'll notice it runs into the keyway. Mark that with a permanent marker. You don't want to grind off the wrong side of the key. So once you have that off, you can see which side you need to grind to the key. I take 1/3 of the key out and then rotate it. I'll get that ground, show a little bit on that, and show you how to reinstall. Once you've got your key ground, this is my weapon of choice. I like a nice fine tip carbide. It's just a pencil grinder, blue point. Once you got about 1/3 ground off, be very careful. You don't want to mess up the tapered mating surface. Make sure it is past the tapered mating surface because you don't want to bind. You don't want part of that key sticking out farther than the rest of the taper, because when you torque it down, you could crack your flywheel. You need to be very careful about this. When you think you're ready, take some starting fluid or some brake cleaner, clean off your taper, clean this out, and what I want you to do is set it down with the key in the previous resting position. Basically, put it down, turn it all the way clockwise as if the remaining portion of the key was still there. I want you to set it down in there turned clockwise, and then turn the flywheel until it runs into the key. I don't want any resistance there. If you feel that the flywheel tries to move up at all, or there's any resistance, you got to go back and look at your key. Make sure that it is ground out properly, because a flywheel can be very dangerous if it shatters. You want to make sure that it's sitting nice and flush on that taper and it rotates freely. And at this point you can see how much advance we're getting just out of 1/3 key right there. Once you've got it cleaned up, you can take let's say a 13mm socket. Make sure you've got it seated counterclockwise, which is advancing. Set your socket on there, and then just give it a tap. That helps hold it in place. And then put your flywheel nut back on and turn it all the way down finger tight, and then torque it to the specification. You should be set. Then your ignition timing is advanced as far as I would go, a little bit more throttle response. Also, I have to note that I'm not the one that pioneered this. I have advanced a lot of saws, but Brad Snelling's the one that really kind of led the charge on getting these 201Ts back together, running the way they should right out of the box, to the point where Stihl has come out with a performance kit and changed all the new ones with a different ignition setup and whatnot. The next thing we want to do is address the muffler. It just needs a basic muffler mod. You can take the screen out if you want. I left it in there. The port in the back here is a little bit difficult to get to, but there's plenty of room back in there to open it up and get it to breathe a little bit. Here she is, all reassembled. Basically everything I showed you that I do to these saws, or I did to this saw. But let's see how much of a difference we made. Same bar and chain, just a couple hours later.